Knocking. How prepared is your family? You can't just close the door on earthquakes, floods, or hurricanes and hope they go away. That's why it's important to make a plan now. Ready.gov/plan has the tools and tips you need to prepare your family for an emergency. So if disaster shows up at your doorstep, you'll be ready. Visit ready.gov/plan and make a plan today. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
Flu season is still active, and you can fend off the flu with 5 easy action items. Start with avoiding close contact with sick people and stay at home if you are sick. Secondly, wash your hands frequently for 20 seconds at a time. Thirdly, remember to cover your coughs or sneezes. Also, avoid touching your eyes, nose, and your mouth. And the number 1 action item, get your flu shot. This message brought to you by the American Lung Association and the Anthem Foundation.
Somewhere there's a river rushing through the woods while someone rushes through their day. There's a mountain looking up at the sky while someone looks down at their phone. A trail waiting to be walked while someone waits for a latte. This world is full of somewheres waiting for someone just like you. So go see yours at 154 national forests and 20 grasslands. And to learn more, visit nationalforest.org. The National Forest Foundation. See yours somewhere.
Sports Talk powered by fans. Sports Radio 810 WHB Kansas City. The power of sports.
America's largest all-sports radio station presents the #1 motorsports show for 2 decades, Track Talk, brought to you by Lucas Oil Products. Here are the Racing Boys, Scott Traylor and Kirk Elliott.
Good morning. Welcome to another edition of Track Talk. I'm Kirk Elliott, flying solo today. Well, not really solo. We got Austin O'Neill and Todd Surprise here, but Scott Traylor is down in Tulsa, Oklahoma right now, and I think he told me yesterday that he might be taking the day off, and why not? Because they didn't even race last night at Tulsa. They got rained out right as the national anthem was playing. Here comes a light sprinkle that they said was going to move out of the area, but it never did. And they were never able to get any racing in. They got qualifying in for the Lucas Oil ASCS sprint cars at the Fuzzy Classic, but no racing. So Scott's got really nothing to talk about from Tulsa, Oklahoma, because nothing happened last night. And we'll see if how things go tonight. And the only night of the Fuzzy Classic will be this evening, and Blake Hahn poised to wrap up his second straight Lucas Oil ASCS National Championship. But there was a ton of other racing going on around the country last night, including the USAC National Sprint Cars out at Cocopa Speedway, where Emerson Axon broke a long drought last night. And there was also USMTS action right here in Kansas City. United States Modified Touring Series wrapping up their season this weekend. And last night it was Derek Ramirez passing Terry Phillips, coming to the white flag to win the feature event, the final event of the year out at Lakeside Speedway. So we'll talk a little bit about that. Got Lee Spencer coming on here in just a few minutes. She's down at Martinsville Speedway, where the NASCAR Cup Series and the Xfinity Series are in action. The next final race of the year as we figure out who the top 4, the final 4, are going to be in both the Cup and the Xfinity Series for Phoenix next weekend. Got the Xfinity Series race today and the Cup Series race tomorrow, and Lee Spencer is there covering all that, and she'll be joining us here in just a few minutes to tell us all about that. How's everything going? Austin, how you doing?
Oh, I'm not doing too bad.
Everything was great down in Texas last weekend. I want to talk a little bit about that. You're a big F1 fan. 440,000 people showed up for the F1 race down at Circuit of the Americas last weekend. What'd you think about it?
500,000 people. Can you believe that?
That's Indy 500 crowd.
Almost, or surpass the 500 crowd. I mean, that's just that's like I said, 500,000 people down there. And every seat you looked at was sold out. The front stretch, up the hill to turn 1 was sold out, and a lot of GA stuff around the track was sold out too, and that was, I believe, the biggest crowd that COTA's ever seen, and that crowd got a pretty good race. Not really. This was the first time the new generation of F1 cars was going to be at COTA, and second time in the United States as they raced in Miami back in May around the Hard Rock Stadium, and it was a pretty good race. I expected after the first lap in the first corner when Carlos Sainz got spun and it handed Max the lead, that he just pretty much would walk away with it, and it comes down to a bad pit stop and back-to-back safety cars, and it totally turned that race, upside down for Max, and it looked like, Lewis Hamilton was going to finally clinch, a win this year and end his winless streak, and Max, proved why he's a double-time back-to-back, world champion, and ran him down and drove by him.
Yeah, you already wrapped up the championship the week before,
yep,
the race before.
Yep, and this was a big weekend for Max as well. Even though he's like you said, he locked up the championship, but Red Bull, the team he drives for, still had a lot on the line, and coming in there and trying to wrap up their constructors championship, the first time since I believe 2013. That was the last year of Sebastian Vettel's championship run. So since 13 to now, it's all been Mercedes, and even last year, Max won the championship, but Mercedes won the constructors championship. So for them to back it up, in both divisions or in both categories this year just shows how dominant of a year that they've had, and it shows that with this new car and the new policies and way F1's changed over the offseason, that it's fallen right in their hands, and it's going to go the Red Bull way for quite some time. And
that's after the billionaire owner, the co-founder of Red Bull, Dietrich Mateschitz, died over the weekend. I think he was 78 years old, and that just happened, and then they go in there and wrap up that Constructors' Championship, first time since 2013. That was a big story about the co-founder of Red Bull passing away.
Oh, it was a huge story. He's done a lot for the sport, and he comes out there and I believe he bought Jaguar, and it is what Red Bull F1 team was transformed into. But he bought that team to get Red Bull started, and years later he acquires a second team, and it's essentially known as the Red Bull Junior team. So if you're coming up through the ranks, you go the AlphaTauri route, race there for a couple of years, and then when a seat opens up at the main F1 or Red Bull team, you're the top two Red Bull F1 drivers, and for him to have that model and kind of have that ladder and support so many young drivers' careers, and careers like Max Verstappen, Sebastian Vettel, Yuki Tsunoda, Pierre Gasly, guys like that, Daniel Ricciardo. He's played a huge part in owning teams, but also getting drivers to world-class status and winning championships and winning races. And if he wasn't in the sport, I don't know if you'd hear about any driver that's ever driven for him, or if we would have the success that we've seen with maybe Sebastian Vettel, Mark Webber, and Max Verstappen.
A little bit of nervous moments for the Mercedes team when Lewis Hamilton's car on the grid, ready to start the race. They're working on it. They're changing brakes on it right up to the start of the race.
Yeah, you don't see very many people or teams, I should say, have issues on the formation lap. And what they do is they go out there and it's like pre-gridding or pre-staging, and you go out there and run. I believe it's 15 minutes before the green flag drops. Run one lap, make sure everything's working in the car, park her on the grid, do your pre-race ceremonies. 15 minutes later, at the top of the hour, hop in the car, lights out, you're going green. And Lewis was having an issue with. It was essentially like a brake bias issue, even though, we dial brake bias, front to rear, which is a huge thing in every type of motorsports, even more, in road course racing. But he was having an issue with like the bias or the pressures between the left side and the right side calipers, and going down the long backstretch to turn 12, he was on the brakes and it was pulling the car to the left, and you kind of want them to work evenly and not have an effect on the car either way, because that can that can really throw your balance off and the way you drive the car, and it can be really detrimental to your night or your race. And they got it fixed for a part of the race. I think Lewis had an issue kind of maybe develop later in the race with it again, but it was maintained enough to where it wasn't going to cause him a big problem. So they got it fixed, a little bit, but still he was fighting it towards the end of the race. And like I said, you don't see issues with cars, on the formation lap. I think the last one we might have seen was, I believe 2020 when Max Verstappen, got into the tire barrier in Turkey when it was raining. It knocked like the left front toe link or upper suspension link off of it, and that was a harder job than doing the brakes that Lewis had to do. They still got it done in 15 minutes. So it just shows that the preparation and the power around the teams are so great that they can do a big job in a short amount of time.
But it was a bad pit stop by Max Verstappen's team that gave Hamilton a chance, and he had a huge lead, and Verstappen was too fast, ran him down, passed him plenty to spare.
Yeah, he, Max, they had an issue with the left front. It was a gun issue. The gun malfunctioned. And if it would have malfunctioned like a half a second later, the tire would have been on the car, and this would have been a story of the race. And, I think it dropped him back. I can't remember how many seconds. It was well over 5 seconds. And, even it wasn't like it dropped back to second. He dropped back to third behind the Ferrari of Charles Leclerc, which has been his championship rival all year long. So, and Ferrari's been really fast. They put a car on the front row or on the pole, Sunday afternoon, and he got by Charles, and the tire compounds between Lewis and Max was different. Lewis was on the hards and Max was on the mediums, and hards will last a couple laps longer than the mediums, and I can't remember how many laps they had left, maybe about 18 to 20. And that was well past the lifespan or life expectancy of a medium set, and it was right in the range for the hards. And for Max to come back, from a 5-second deficit to drive by, one of the greatest F1 drivers of all time, and then pull away from him on a set of worn tires, and clearly showed he had a disadvantage against Lewis. It was incredible. I was sitting there watching the race, and I'm a Max Verstappen fan, and I had hope that he would drive by him, but I wasn't too optimistic that he was going to get by him and get the win. But when I saw him run him down, the last 5 laps to go, I was pretty impressed.
Well, it was a spectacular event, and there could be 3 F1 races in the United States if they pull this thing in Las Vegas together. That'd be pretty incredible. We just need to see an American driver or 2. We've already got an American team with Haas, but I think we need an American driver in there to really bring in more people to be interested in that, don't you think?
For sure. I mean, Netflix helped with the just American popularity overall. But just imagine, what an American nationality or driver, what would that do for the sport and for the American fans, and we're really close to having that. But so the deal with F1, you have to have a super license, and the way you gain a super license is you have to accumulate so many points in like an FIA, I believe, sanctioned event. So I believe that would be like, F1, F2, F3, and I believe there's a couple other, maybe full body cars or races that you can gain those points in. But, for drivers, like the top prospect, I believe, in IndyCar would be, Colton Herta. But, Colton just races Indy cars, and you don't gain those super license points, here in the United States. So, team owners or potential team owners, from the United States have been trying to work with the FIA to maybe adjust the rules in a way to allow for drivers that maybe don't have a super license, that might be hard for them to obtain that, maybe an easier process for them to get one and be a part of F1.
Sprint car racing, what do you think of Lance DeWeese winning his 5th National Open at Williams Grove Speedway? How about that?
I called it. I've said it since the first the first or the original date for the National Open, and when it was unfortunate that they rained out, the Saturday night portion and the last 20 laps or 15 laps of the Friday night show. But yeah, I called it since that week that Lance was gonna get it done. He's been so good this year. I believe he's won 4 or 5 races in a row at Williams Grove, and he's the all-time winningest driver there, and he's just had one of those years. Lance is always good. Lance will go out there and win a couple races every year and be a contender, but this is just one of those years that Lance was exceptionally good. He's won 3 Outlaw races this year, on top of his Williams Grove wins, and he backed up another win for $75,000 last Saturday night. So it was cool to see him get that. Hopefully he has enough kind of left to maybe tie Donnie, or even surpass Donnie in the all-time winningest National Open driver. But no, I thought it was pretty cool. It wasn't an easy one. He had to hold off one of the hottest sprint car drivers in the country, and Brent Marks, and find out after the race that he had an issue with the wing tree breaking on the left side of the frame, and kind of causing some handling issues. But that just reinforces the reason why Lance is one of the greatest sprint car drivers of all time.
It was a 40-lap race. They had to refuel the cars with about 15 laps to go because they wouldn't have made it. They were drinking a lot of fuel. But a handful of laps to go, a dozen laps left. It was Darren Pittman that brought out a yellow flag for some mechanical problems. On the restart, Brent Marks took the lead from DeWeese. But then a red flag came out. We had a 3-car crash there involving Gio Scelzi and Stutz, and I forgot who the other. I think Brock Zierfoss was the other car. And they didn't complete the lap. So DeWeese went back out in front. Had that red not occurred, I don't think DeWeese gets back by Brent Marks for the lead.
No.
I don't think that happens.
No, you're spot on with that. Yeah, he mentioned that he was having issues with his receiver, so it was kind of taking his focus away from his restarts, and he just made one mistake. And with guys, that he's racing of that caliber, one mistake will alter the outcome of your race, and it can cost you a race, just that quick, and that's what it almost did. And he was very fortunate that those 3 cars got together and had a red, but. You go back to that break. They didn't really make, I feel like, a lot of changes. They had fuel change in Wickerbill, and maybe they might have moved a little weight around. But they had a really good balance the entire race. And like you said, the cars were drinking a lot of fuel, and that's kind of due to the good air. So. The track and the track was pretty fast too, and it was a little narrow. So it was really a race to clean air and a race to the front. So if you got out there in clean air, you're going to be pretty much on a smooth sail to the lead or to the win. And and that's what we saw with Lance before he made that mistake, and even after he got back by Brent.
As great a win as that was for Lance DeWeese, and it was a crown jewel victory, that probably wasn't the biggest story of the night. The biggest story of the night involved the point leader, Brad Sweet. That was the final race before the World Finals, and Brad Sweet had troubles.
Yeah, that was huge. My prediction going into that race, Brad doesn't make mistakes, and that team has really good equipment under them, and it's not very often you see a part failure like that. But axles breaking is just a part of the sport, and it's unpredicted sometimes, and it's just something that happens. And I figured it would be, worst case scenario, he would get caught up on a first lap incident, with heavy fuel in the back of the car. They're not really the best the best cars to drive when they have a ton of fuel behind you, but. I figured it'd just be a mistake on the first lap, by him, or just getting caught up in somebody else's mess. But that wasn't the case, and it was a left rear axle tube breaking. And I got to give a hats off to both Casey Kane teams trying to get it changed in the hot pit. But changing a rear axle is I feel like, in my opinion, the most dreaded job on sprint car racing. It's just it it's not the most fun. And it's a lengthy process. I mean, if you got a good team around you, you could probably knock it out in 15 minutes tops. And it's something you definitely can't do in the hot pit. But after seeing them try and attempt that, I'd be interested to see what changes get made to parts, over the next couple of years to maybe allow teams to do that. But yeah, it was not something, Brad wanted to see going into the World Finals. Now he could have walked in the World Finals with an easy, first couple nights and have no stress, but that's not going to be the case this year.
16 points is all that separates Brad Sweet from his challenger, David Gravel, heading into Charlotte next weekend. That's going to be fun to watch. We're going to talk NASCAR coming up after the break. Lee Spencer is down in Martinsville. She'll get us all set up for the weekend down there with the Xfinity race today, Cup race tomorrow. And we are here for the next 2 hours on Racing Boys, just for the next hour on Sports Radio 810. Coming up at 9 o'clock, College Game Day, but we have an exclusive hour 2 on racingboys.com. So hang around with us. Glad you're joining us. We're coming back with more. Lee Spencer joining us here on Track Talk.
Track Talk. As your power steering pump ages, seal leaks may occur, causing the power steering system to lose fluid. Your power steering system may also develop an annoying squeal, and the steering may become more difficult to handle. By using Lucas Power Steering Stop Leak, you will stop the seal leaks, reduce slack in rack and pinion, eliminate the squeals and hard spots in your power steering system. It is guaranteed to stop seal leaks or your money back. Lucas Power Steering Stop Leak. It works.
Frank Bowl here from my friends at CBD American Shaman. You've heard me talk about my experience with CBD products. If you struggle with pain, anxiety, sleep, or lack of energy, visit your local CBD American Shaman about the benefits of high-quality hemp oil. And if Kansas City scores big, you score big discounts. Kansas City puts up 30, it's 30% off. 50% off your order of $100 or more the day after the game. Only at CBD American Shaman. Life is better with a feather.
The seasons may change, but one thing remains the same. Whether you're heading to the pumpkin patch, the football game, or just to drive around the block, Bob Allen Ford is here for all your family adventures. Step up your fall fun in your new vehicle from Bob Allen Ford. Take advantage of the best prices of the season. Wherever your fall outing may be, make sure it's in a Bob Allen Ford. As my father always says, all Fords are created equal. It's your dealer that makes the difference. Go to BobAllenFord.com.
The Whole Person connects people with disabilities to the resources they need to live independently and enjoy the many opportunities this great city provides. We're focused on creating a fully accessible community where opportunities and choices are not limited by disability. The Whole Person delivers programs and services that enhance the confidence of people with disabilities by providing the skills needed to live, learn, and work in the Kansas City Metro. The Whole Person serves both Missouri and Kansas. Learn more by visiting thewholeperson.org.
Hey Kansas City, it's Jeff Briggs with Victory Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, home of the Victory Effect. Our pledge to drive down vehicle pricing for the city we love. Fall is quickly approaching. What a great time of year to be in Kansas City. Football is back, temperatures are cooling, and the Ram Power Day sales event kicks off. The manufacturer just announced aggressive new 2022 Ram 1500 incentives. To celebrate the new incentives, Victory at the Legends is bringing back the You Choose event. That's right, this month you get to choose from $6,500 off list price or $2,500 off list price plus 0% on select in-stock Ram 1500 Bighorns. These trucks are packed with options, including crew cab and four-wheel drive. And don't forget, trades are still bringing top dollar. Even if you don't buy from us, we will still pay you cash on the spot for your trade. Visit us at Kansas City's only automotive outlet mall, the Legends Auto Plaza, on the southeast corner of 435 and Parallel, just east of Nebraska Furniture Mart, or online at victorymotorskc.com, where our first price is better than their last.
Hey, Kansas City, this is Stephen St. John with the Border Patrol. Here's something real scary. Imagine you're a Denver Broncos fan right now.
Mr. Unlimited. Green screening it with my boy. Broncos country, let's rock.
Oh, no! Even scarier than me hanging out outside of Matt Beasler's house on the weekends.
Oh! Happy Halloween from the Border Patrol!
Oh! Unlimited.
Welcome back. I'm Kirk Elliott. Scott Traylor taking the morning off. Make sure you join him for Mostly Motorsports every weekday at 12 noon, and it's on every podcast service you can find. Does that show every Monday through Friday. Lee Spencer is with us right now. She's in Martinsville getting ready for a big weekend of racing. Lee, how you doing this morning?
I'm super. How are you?
I'm doing great, man. Here we are. This fall's gone quick. We're getting right down to it.
Yeah, it's a little chilly here. It's overcast. Going to have some Xfinity action, and then we'll move on to Cup tomorrow and figure out which of the 4 drivers is headed to the championship round.
We got a little taste of Martinsville the other night with that Whelen Modified Tour race. Did you watch some of that?
I did not. I did not. I was watching Blues hockey.
Oh, you were?
I mean, it was one of those things where I forgot it was on, and I should have watched it. By the time I flipped over to Flow, it was already over. So
Corey LaJoie.
I did watch most of Coca-Paw last night. Fell asleep at the end of that too.
Yeah, that was late last night too. Great night for Emerson Axsom. I'll get into that here in just a little while. But no, Corey LaJoie picks up the win, but he had knocked into John McKennedy, who ended up winning the championship. He was leading the race, made contact with him, and got him and some other cars turned around, but LaJoie still won the race. So that I think he had the fastest car anyway. So good for him.
Well, I mean, I think that's a good momentum builder.
Sure.
You know, if you win anywhere, it's good for business.
Let's talk about what happened last weekend. Kyle Larson dominated and won, but the problem is he's not in the Final Four. He got knocked out at the Roval down there because of just think about how close that was, that Kyle Larson would be locked into the Final Four, but it didn't happen.
Well, I mean, and we always said that back in the days, even when he was with Ganassi, if you ever made it to the Final Four when Homestead was the season finale, it would be hard to bet against him because he was just so magical at that place. So to finally get that win and to do it so convincingly, right, by winning stages and leading laps, you know, it was just really I think it was a cathartic win for that team because they haven't brought their A game most of the season, and they really needed something like that to help turn it around.
You know, and Kyle was talking about, he said, it's not just the Cup car. He says, I haven't been good in any of my racing. And you know, he's right about that. He's had issues in his sprint car, and, you know, whenever he's driven a midget, he's had some issues. So it hasn't been just the Cup car he's been beating himself about.
Oh, no. I mean, it's been across the board. As dominant as he was the year before, and, you know, certainly when he took the year off and did nothing but run on dirt or, you know, selected pavement, but mostly dirt, you know, what he was able to accomplish that year was nothing short of magical. I mean, it was just, he was so spot on, just really knocked it out of the park. And so, you know, just to have a win going to the end of the season, and I wouldn't count him out of Phoenix yet. You know, he's running for that owner's championship. I really think that there's the opportunity for them to win again. And, you know, this isn't his best track, but, you know, Phoenix, with what they were able to accomplish back, you know, last year and what they know about the track and about the strategy, I think that, you know, I wouldn't count them out yet. And, you know, then when he gets to the off season, and he can concentrate fully on dirt, I think that's another good opportunity for him and whichever crew chief he's running with.
I'm confused about the owner's points versus the driver points. Now, Kyle Larson.
Let me tell you why the owner point situation is really more important than the driver's point. I mean, the drivers, they get all the attention, what have you, but the money that's distributed, the TV money that's distributed among the teams comes from the owner point. So, you know, that's even more important from that standpoint than it is, you know, worrying about the driver situation. So, you know, I think that if there are potential that, you know, if one of their drivers or two of their drivers advances from tonight's round, Chase Elliott and William Byron are still in the mix, then they could potentially win both the driver's title and the owner's title with Kyle.
Yeah, I get all that part. What I'm confused about, Kyle Larson's been in that car every race this year. How can that car be eligible for the owner's points and the driver cannot, since Kyle has driven that car? What is the difference in the way they tabulate owner's points versus driver's points? I guess that's my question.
Well, I think what you saw was there were a lot of, earlier in the year, you had a situation where, with Kurt getting out, it kind of moved things around. And Blaney, fell out of the owner's point at one point. He wasn't there and did not transfer. But you have, despite what happened to Larson, his car was still there. And the win advanced him to the round of 4. So, the owner, as far as the owner points goes, he's still there and, still has the potential to pull it off. And so that would, be an interesting, it'll be an interesting turn of events, and we'll all be scrambling with our calculators if indeed, things advance in that direction.
Hey, Lee, I'm still confused, but that's okay. I'm going to learn more about this, why that car is still eligible for the Owners' Championship, but yet the driver is not. That's what I just can't figure out.
Well, we'll work on that with
I'm
you.
going to work on that. I'm going to try to find that out. So, anyway, let's get back. Joey Logano already locked in. He won at Las Vegas here a couple of weeks ago. We got Ross Chastain, Chase Elliott, William Byron above the cut line. Denny Hamlin is 24 points below. Ryan Blaney, Christopher Bell, and Chase Briscoe. Those drivers have got to win to get in. Am I wrong?
You're right. And so I think, especially in the position with the bad luck that Briscoe and Bell have had of late, it's win or bust. So, that's kind of what I'm looking at for them. And, we'll see what happens. It's the weather was supposed to be warmer here. It's supposed to be in the 60s, but it was like 50 when we got out of the car. And so that's kind of, it's 50, it's overcast. When they tire tested here, it was like in the 80s. And so, high 80s, 90s even. So this is, it was back in August. And so this could be a really, interesting chain of events that we'll be watching. I'll be curious to see, if the tire was so sporty back in August, how it's going to react in these temperatures. I mean, it's certainly warmer than it was when we were here in was it March or April, and it ended up snowing. But I still believe that it's, when it's cold like that, the rubber just doesn't take to the track. So it's going to be interesting to see how things transpire.
Yeah, I mean, that tire that they brought in April, that just didn't work. There was no fall off at all. They didn't lay down any rubber, and it was as bad a race
it was not
as we've
a good
ever.
Show.
Yeah, it was as bad a race as we ever seen at Martinsville. So this tire is supposedly significantly different. That's going to lay down some rubber on the racetrack. Are we going to see a better race with this car? Because I don't think it's all the tire.
Well, we're all hopeful, right? I mean, like I said, because it's warmer than it was then, but is it warm enough to really produce the kind of racing that we're looking for? I think it's going to be a lot of rooting and gouging. I'm not quite sure how early they'll start the rooting and gouging, but I can guarantee you that I think that there's going to be a lot of, using bumpers to advance positions, and because people are going to get impatient, there's a lot on the line, and I don't really I just don't see them waiting around to, I think they'll probably try to make something happen rather than wait for something to happen.
One thing we found out, Lee, through this point system, and I'm kind of on board with this, is that these stage points that you accumulate throughout the season, is about as critical as anything, and we're seeing it right now. If you don't build up a good cushion through the season by winning stages, you're in deep trouble.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that again? You were breaking up, or my phone's breaking up.
If these stage points that the drivers
Yes.
accumulate through the year, we're seeing how critical that is.
Right. I mean, we saw that even last week, the fact that, that Logano and Blaney, were picking up stage points, that Larson picked up stage points. I mean, it really, it makes a ton of difference. Now, coming down to this one final race, Adam Stevens said on the radio, we're not going to be able to get by just on stage points alone. And so that's kind of, it's something where you had to be accumulating them through the season. You look at somebody like Blaney, who had the most stage wins for most of the year, and it's like, it's carried him a long way. So waiting to see, what happens. I mean, it's like I said, we're all going to be sitting there with calculators tomorrow trying to figure out, who's in, who's out. I mean, I'm sure they're going to have the schedules up and mounted, or the calculations, the standings. They're up on the NASCAR timing and scoring as we're looking at that. So we'll kind of have that going the whole time. And, it'll be really interesting to see how it transpires and who ends up on top. And, people will go back and they'll second guess what they did throughout the season and figure out where they can put themselves in better positions. And, Bell's probably one of those, the Bell and the 20 car, that's probably one of those teams. But, it's all coming down to tomorrow night.
Yeah, the qualifying, that's going to be very critical coming up here. What about noontime today to see where these guys start? The farther you start up front, obviously, the better shots you're going to have. So this qualifying is big.
Oh, absolutely. Qualifying is going to, qualifying today is going to be, it's going to start you off whether you're, it'll set the tone for the entire weekend, right? Ross Chastain joked that he had to come from Danville to finish in the top 5 because of where he qualified, but in the spring. But it's like if you're, certainly through the first half of the race, we'll be watching the playoff drivers that didn't qualify well, and just to see what they do throughout the course of the race, trying to get up there and avoiding some of the riffraff that occurs en route to the to the front of the pack if they can get there.
And how good a pit spot you can get on pit road, too, is going to be critical. Hey, great news. Alex Bowman cleared to race for Phoenix.
Isn't that fabulous? Now let's, hope Kurt's not far behind. But it's with his crew chief, Greg Ives, leaving at the end of the year, and with that being Alex's home track since he grew up in Tucson, it's, certainly it's a boon for that team. They can leave the season on a high note and at least be able to, race and have one last hurrah together before they break up and start anew with the new crew chief in 2023.
All right, Xfinity, we got Noah Gragson, Josh Berry, Ty Gibbs, A.J. Allmendinger in the top 4. Justin Allgaier is way back, 61 points below the cut line. Austin Hill, Sam Mayer, Brandon Jones. This is going to be an interesting Xfinity race today.
Well, Brandon was smart. He's starting on the pole, so there's that, right? He's got an advantage over the rest of the guys just, from the get-go. So that's he is that in his favor. But I just looking at the rest of them, it's, you kind of hate it for Allgaier, what's happening. Everybody has said throughout the week that they think Allmendinger might be the sketchiest of the bunch trying to advance. So we'll see how, if that works out for him. But, I really think that it's going to come down to a battle between Josh Berry, who basically he's been under the radar. He just comes in and does his thing. He's won plenty of championships in the past, albeit in, late models. But, I mean, this is not his first rodeo. It might be his first rodeo going to the Championship 4 in the Xfinity Series, but he's been there before, and I think he knows what it takes to be a guy in the mix of things. And he's really, to me, the sleeper. Everybody's probably, all the attention's going to be on Noah Gragson and Ty Gibbs, but I would not sleep on Josh Berry.
No, absolutely. He's got a good shot at. Lee, enjoy your weekend at Martinsville. Have a hot dog on me. Martinsville hot dog.
I will do my best.
All right. Thanks so much. I appreciate it.
Take care.
All right. Lee Spencer. You can read all of her material on the Scoop page at racinboys.com. When we come back, we're going to hear a part of an interview Scott did on Mostly Motorsports with Mike Marlar, late model driver who won up at US 36 Raceway the other night. We'll do that when we come back here next on Track Talk.
Track Talk.
Next to your vehicle's engine, your transmission is the most important component of your car. If it's not properly maintained, your car may not shift properly. By adding Lucas Transmission Fix to your transmission, it cleans and lubricates sticking valves for proper shifting, renews worn bands to stop slipping, stops seal leaks, will not void new car warranties, contains no harmful solvents. Lucas Transmission Fix. It works.
Hey, Kansas City, it's Brian Pringle with Victory Ford at the Legends in KCK. High gas prices got you down? Victory Ford has great gas mileage vehicles in stock. If it's a work truck you're looking for, we have you covered there too. New or used, we have the vehicle for you. No matter where you live, we have satisfied customers throughout Kansas City and beyond. So let us help you find your next car, truck, or SUV. At Victory Ford, we keep the golden rule at the forefront of everything we do. Stop by the Legends or online at victoryfordkc.com, where our first price is better than their last.
Attention knee pain sufferers. Do you know the ugly truth about cortisone injections for the knee? Well, you can only have 3 cortisone injections per year because of these 5 potentially devastating side effects. These side effects include cartilage damage and degeneration, thinning of the bone, joint infection, and nerve damage. So what's the answer for knee problems? Well, I'm Dr. Blaine Kingsbury, DC, with the Functional Health Institute, and I've treated professional athletes from over 60 countries. In fact, I had 4 of my athletes from 4 different countries competing in the Tokyo Olympics. And fortunately, there are new ways to deal with chronic knee conditions. You may be a candidate for our new cutting-edge treatment options that don't require drugs or surgery. Schedule your free knee consultation and evaluation, which is normally $249, and we will evaluate your symptoms to see if you're a candidate for our innovative treatments. Don't wait until it's too late. Call 913-724-5891. That's 913-724-5891.
Receding hairlines, bald spots, thinning hair, many try medications, foams, special shampoos, or supplements. But the best method for restoring your hair is simple. Transferring your own hair follicles to the places you need them. I'm Dr. Jeff Markey with Ascentus Plastic Surgery. We perform hair transplants with cutting-edge ARTIS robotics to get the single best result for each patient with the least amount of downtime. Contact Ascentus Hair Restoration or visit kansascityhairtransplant.com for a free consultation. Surgical precision with hair restoration performed by plastic surgeons only at Ascentus Hair Restoration.
You know a spot, but not just a spot, the spot. Actually, with the all-new Nissan Frontier, you know a bunch of them. But the key to these great spots? Being able to reach them in the first place. Your spot is out there. Find your Frontier in the all-new 2022 Nissan Frontier with standard 310 horsepower, advanced tech, and 281 pound-foot of torque.
The only place to follow the Big 12. Sports Radio 810 WHB.
It's going to be a lot of fun. Our league is not dropping off at all. In fact, we're elevating.
We're pretending like all these kids are NBA players. They're not worth money to the school. There's value from the school coming to these kids.
Bill Self joining us here in the zone.
We needed to do more than what we've done, and I'll be the first to admit that.
Number 1 for a reason. Sports Radio 810 WHB. Sports talk powered by fans.
Friday Night Lights, college game days, and of course Red Sundays are what Kansas City is all about right now. And nothing goes better with football than Joe's Kansas City Barbecue. Joe's Championship Barbecue is perfect for your tailgate or your house party. Joe's smoked brisket, pulled pork, turkey, and ham are available by the pound. And teamed up with their incredible sides makes for a game-winning meal for the entire team. Order online right now at joeskc.com. Order on the app or visit one of their 3 locations, Olathe, Leawood, and the original in the gas station in KCK.
Welcome back to Track Talk on a Saturday morning. I'm Kirk Elliott. Scott Traylor earlier this week spoke with late model star Mike Marlar, who won the weekend finale in the World of Outlaw Late Models at US 36 Raceway in Osborne, Missouri on Sunday night. And here is a portion of that conversation.
What you think about Humboldt Speedway?
Oh, it was really racy. You know, I'd heard that it was kind of small, and when I got there, it wasn't as small as I thought. It was a little bigger than like Fairbury and some of those tracks. So it was kind of a little Midwest bull ring, but it was really racing.
Yeah. So track conditions there at Humboldt, were you satisfied with it? You must have been, because you came from 17th to run 4th, if I'm not mistaken. Isn't that right?
Yeah. Yep. We did. The track was really good, and the longer the night went, the better it was getting. And actually qualified kind of bad. The track was, they started off with them kind of wet up there, and the tire we run is a really hard tire when we come to that area. So that tire's, hard to get going on a track like that. But once it burns in and gets the slime off of it, it usually makes for a really, really cool race. Yeah,
no doubt. It seemed like you must have been able to take your car anywhere you wanted on the racetrack, coming from 17th up to 4th. Was there any special spot that really worked for you there at Humboldt more than others?
Well, that's the first time I've raced in. I went to Lakeside, once quite a while ago, and didn't really have a great night, and I can't say that I really learned anything. It was just kind of a night of racing, and this trip was a little different. Those tracks are quite a bit different than other tracks around the country as far as how they get kind of dirty in the middle, but the dirty stuff you can still go in really well. So I was able to actually learn a few things about how to drive them, and was able to get out in them crumbs and make hay and pass people. So it was kind of a no man's land, but to me it was really, really a lot of traction in them. So it worked out really good.
Yeah. So let's move over to 81 Speedway. That wasn't a good night for you. You started 4th, but I think you threw a belt off, didn't you? Is that what I heard?
I did, yeah. The oil pump belt shredded on me, and I didn't blow anything up or anything, but me and Billy Sheppy won and Billy Moyer got second. Well, me and Billy was racing hard there, and I was kind of along beside him trying to pass him, and felt my power steering kind of quiver a little bit, and that made me a little nervous. And started watching my gauges, and then it went ahead, and it was unraveling the belt, So I was able to shut it off and stop, and didn't blow any motors up or anything. But I had to pull in early from the race, and it was a little disappointment, because it was actually a really good racetrack there, and didn't get to finish it. But I was looking forward to how that was going to end, because it was having a heck of a race there. At one time, I think you could have threw a blanket over the first 4 or 5 of us in traffic, So
yeah, no doubt.
So it was actually it was a really good racetrack.
Was that your first time to 81?
It was my first time to Humboldt or 81 or 36 or any of them. So
wow.
So I was a rookie on the whole trip, and you got some good tracks out there.
Yeah, no doubt. Let me ask you about 81 Speedway. That track for many, many years didn't have a wall around it. And they put that wall in there, and it kind of tightened up the racetrack a little bit. Did you notice that a little bit down in 1 and 2? It was a little kind of tight down there a little bit, isn't it?
Well, No, honestly, it was compared to a lot of the other tracks we go to. I didn't really feel like it was any more tight than anything else. And you're going pretty fast. The way the track's made, the straightaways are kind of long for what the corners are. So when you get down there, you need a little more room, and you got to have some room to get slowed down. But qualifying, I was able to go around the track and never really let off the pedal and run around there wide open. So there was room enough, to get it done. And I think those walls, I can't imagine. I would think the wall would have made it better. I obviously didn't race before that, but it had just a little cushion up against that wall, just enough to help you make a little hay, early. So I would think the wall would probably be helpful for it.
Did you change motors? Were you worried about the motor that was in your car? You did change motors, didn't you, before US 36?
We did, yeah. And I had a spare car with me, but that creates a lot of work back in the shop cleaning up two of them and whatever damage you might have on them. So while we had one car out and it was dirty and had a few tire donuts and stuff on it, we went ahead and just swapped engines. And luckily, I had a spare with me, so we swapped the engine and just precautionary. Really, the other motor I don't feel like hurt at all, but got to pull the oil pan off, pull the oil pan, and have a look at the bearings before we run it again. But yeah, we swapped the engines, and that ended up being a little bigger process than we thought it was going to be, but we got her in there in time.
Yeah, no doubt. So you move up to US 36 Raceway, which is right here in our neck of the woods, but you started fourth. And Chase Youngins, he was kind of out there a little bit. Talk about that race a little bit.
Well, that track was that was kind of the one that I kind of thought for the whole weekend would be probably up on the wheel, probably honestly more exciting than the other ones, and just based on the shape of it and the banking and all that. And it didn't disappoint. It was really a busy place, Chase and I got to racing, and not only Chase, it was Dennis Erb and Tyler Bruning, and we were really having a good race off, in the traffic there too. And but that little track will get your heart rate up for sure. There's a lot of huffing and puffing going on between us all after that race. We were all kind of breathing hard. So it was very exciting race that one was, and a lot of lap traffic and slide jobs and whatever going on. So it was actually probably the most aggressive track of the three, I think.
That is Mike Marlar, and yeah, what a night of racing that was at US 36 the other night. I went up there, and that track is fast, it's high banked, and there was no shortage of action all the way around that racetrack. That's one of those places where you really got to be there to take it all in, because a TV camera can't capture everything that's going on. And getting through the lap traffic and watching Marlar fly that 157 car around that racetrack, that was sure a sight to behold. And we thank him for joining us. Great guy, Mike Marlar, on Mostly Motorsports, and you can watch it live at noon every weekday, and of course it's on every one of the podcast channels. Last night, Lakeside Speedway, Todd Surprise texted me and said, boy, Lakeside's running. Those cars were loud tonight.
They were loud. And then I think I figured out what it is, Kirk. We had that giant windstorm the other day.
You live out by there.
And, yeah, I'm less than 3 miles away. And that windstorm blew every bit of leaf that was remaining, which normally we don't lose a lot of the leaves like we did. And let me tell you something. The World of Outlaws was loud, but last night, those late models, that was... Modifieds, I'm sorry, USMTS modified. It was so loud, I kept thinking, I honestly thought there might have been some racing going on up on the highway on K7 up by my house, because we get a few racers up there, but oh my gosh. And they were done early. I called Kirk, and when he texted me, he said, well, they just wrapped up that one. All they had left was a B-mod race, and Shadrick Turner, he picked up the win again out there. That kid there, he just wins. That's all that kid does. Is if the highest priced boys ain't in town racing, that kid wins every race. So it was a good night out there. I know there was a lot of cars out there too. So
yeah, Shadrick Turner. I'm not sure of the total count, but it's well over 20 wins this year. Yeah,
all the tracks he's raced at, he's done well. And top 5 if he hasn't won. Like I said, that kid. I'm sure there's a lot of people going to the old what's his sponsor, 54th Street Grill. I'm sure there's a lot of people that are up there turning in those little free passes for guacamole dip and stuff. So yeah, that's a good promotion he's got going on. And let me tell you something, Lakeside, they had a good way. They finished, they had a good end of the season out there. A lot of really good, strong events out there, and I'm sure they've got the big Halloween thing getting ready to roll on out there too. So the fun will continue out here at Lakeside Speedway in Kansas City.
The big winner last night, though, was Derek Ramirez, who passed Terry Phillips right at the white flag. He led early in the race, and then Terry Phillips, he obviously had the fast race car and took the lead and was running away with it. But he got into a lap car. He got into Randall Schiffelbein's car and pushed part of the quarter panel in and might have got onto the tire. He said the car tightened up quite a bit after that, and it just wasn't nearly as fast. And here comes Derek Ramirez back around him and just caught him right as they were taking the white flag and wins that $10,000 top prize as the USMTS now heads to the final race of the year, 81 Speedway tonight, as Dustin Sorensen has already wrapped up the championship. Technically he's not. He's got to show up at the racetrack tonight. That's going to happen. But Dustin Sorensen is the USMTS champion for 2022. But Derek Ramirez was the big winner last night after Dan Ebert won on Thursday night down at Tri-State Speedway in Pecola, Oklahoma. So pretty good crowd of modified action at Lakeside Speedway last night. So
we got Scott Traylor joining us here at the very end of this first hour. It looks like we got him on right now. We're going to have him on at the beginning, the whole hour next hour. So he was down there ready to watch a race. And it got a little rained out down there, didn't it, Scott?
You got 1 minute, Scott. You want to wrap up the hour?
No, go ahead, Kirk. Wrap it up, and I'll join you at the top of the second hour.
Perfect. And but rain out. Nothing really to talk about last night down at Tulsa, huh? So that's kind of a bummer. So Scott Traylor will be joining us in hour number 2.
Absolutely.
Exclusively on Racing Boys. College Game Day is coming up here just a little bit here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Want to thank you for tuning in as we are here each and every Saturday morning talking racing. And it's all brought to you by Lucas Oil Products. It works. For Todd Surprise and for Austin O'Neill and Scott Traylor, I'm Kirk Elliott. We thank you for tuning in here for Track Talk. And again, join us for hour number 2 exclusively on RacingBoys.com. And don't forget Scott Traylor's Mostly Motorsports every weekday at 12 noon live on all of our Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter pages, as well as all the podcasts. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Talk to you next week.
Your home is your greatest investment, and our weather is tough on your roof.
Thanks, my
if your
friend.
roof needs repair or
Y'all have a great weekend.
You too,
I
brother.
recommend
Appreciate it.
Buck Roofing. Ron Buck and his team have been repairing and replacing roofs in Kansas City for over 15 years, and they're in Lawrence too. For expert roof repair, replacement, commercial and residential, and they'll do your gutters too. There's only one company I trust, the one with so many 5-star reviews, and that's Buck Roofing.
At Lucas Oil, we take pride in creating problem-solving products to make your car care easier. We protect your vehicle and make it run longer so you can focus on the things that matter most. Whether it's commuting to work, visiting a loved one, taking the kids where they need to go, going to the big game, or anywhere life takes you, Lucas Oil is committed to getting you there for all of life's important moments. Lucas Oil, it works.
Go harder, faster, stronger with Rod End Supply. Whether you are running industrial, farming equipment, or a race car, Rod End Supply has the assortment of rod ends, radius rods, and specialty products that will help you lead the field in performance. Our superior design means our rod ends last longer and perform better, giving you the edge on the track and saving you money. Contact Rod End Supply or order online today at rodendsupply.com. We don't just sell them, we race them. rodendsupply.com. Serving the racing community for over 30 years.
Here at Specialty Sportswear in-house, we do all of the screen printing, all the embroidery. We do some vinyl. The other add specialty items like your pens, magnets, notepads, calendars. You can actually buy that, build your business to make it larger. We have the largest screen printing process and the largest embroidery anywhere around in the area. We can do stuff all the way from your school clubs to sports teams, a professional look in the office. If you can imagine it, we can do it for you.
One of the main reasons for poor vehicle performance is a dirty fuel system. It can cause decreased fuel economy and actually do harm to your engine over time. By adding Lucas Fuel Treatment to your vehicle, it cleans and lubricates the entire fuel system, pump, carburetors, fuel injectors, and valves as you drive. It also improves your vehicle's performance. It's a non-solvent product designed to protect both gasoline and diesel engines. Lucas Fuel Treatment. It works. There is less than 1/100th of an inch of motor oil protecting your car's engine. Friction and heat causes engine oil to experience thermal breakdown, weakening its ability to protect the engine and its parts. Lucas Heavy Duty Oil Stabilizer is specially formulated to resist thermal breakdown, protect vital engine parts, and extend the life of your engine. It also stops smoking, knocking, and oil consumption in worn engines. Lucas Heavy Duty Oil Stabilizer. Keep that engine alive.
Missouri's must play getaway. Osage National Golf Resort.
3 9-hole courses to choose from at the Lake of the Ozarks in the Osage River Valley. Stay and play packages in our first-class condos. A beautiful clubhouse complete with pro shop and exercise facilities. A large pool for relaxation and families. The Eagle View Sports Bar and Grill. Great wedding facilities. Go online and make your tee time today.
Race fans, the National Sprint Car Hall of Fame and Museum is open 7 days a week, year-round, for you to come in and check out all of the wonderful race cars on display in the museum. And our online store at sprintcarstuff.com is open 24 hours a day for you to check out everything that we have in stock for sprint car fans. Whether it's for a birthday, anniversary, or Christmas, sprintcarstuff.com has it all. That's at the National Sprint Car Hall of Fame and Museum in Knoxville.
Next to your vehicle's engine, your transmission is the most important component of your car. If it's not properly maintained, your car may not shift properly. By adding Lucas Transmission Fix to your transmission, it cleans and lubricates sticking valves for proper shifting, renews worn bands to stop slipping, stops seal leaks, will not void new car warranties, contains no harmful solvents. Lucas Transmission Fix. It works.
Hey everybody, this is Larry the Cable Guy, and if you're not listening to the Racing Boys, then you've got some sort of head problems. You gotta listen to the Racing Boys. Get her done!
Welcome to Hour 2 of Track Talk on the Racing Boys Broadcasting Network. Brought to you by Lucas Oil Products. Made in America, sold to the world. Here again are the Racing Boys, Scott Traylor and Kirk Elliott.
Hour 2 of Track Talk. I'm Kirk Elliott, live from the Race Boys Studios, along with Austin O'Neill and Todd Surprise. And joining us now is the main man, Scott Traylor from Tulsa, Oklahoma. How you doing this morning?
I'm doing all right, Kirk. How you doing?
Well,
Sorry, I'm a little late.
That's a bummer. They got rained out last night, though.
Yeah, it was a bummer. No doubt about it. You know, it looked like that everything was going to go as planned, and then right at the last second, Mother Nature dropped some rain on us, And to be honest with you, Kirk, it doesn't look too promising today.
Oh,
I'm looking
no.
outside right now, and it's cloudy, and there's some rain clouds around, and hopefully they'll get in night number 2 of the Fuzzy Fall Fling tonight.
And that wasn't even in the forecast, was it? I didn't see it.
No, I didn't either. You know, when I looked at the weather, it said it was going to be 65 and clear. And
yeah,
when I got down here, all of a sudden there was a storm rolling in. And unfortunately, we didn't get to see any action last night. The track was so fast last night. Kirk, the track record for the 360 sprint cars was 12.5. And last night, Wayne Johnson ran 11.0. So he was a second and a half faster than the track record last night.
So they got all the qualifying in. What, they had 4 groups of qualifying and then ran the anthem, and that was that.
I'm not sure they got all the qualifying in or not, to be honest with you. I went up and I watched Blake's qualifying effort. You know, we've got a little personal interest because we kind of help him out a little bit with his fire suits and whatnot. But I went up and I watched him do his qualifying effort and then went back to the trailer. So I'm not sure if everybody got all their qualifying effort in or not. But I do know that first couple groups did get their qualifying effort in.
And so we're down to just one night here. So he is the champion, right?
Well, all he has to do is just show up, and he is the champion for the next 2 nights. That's all he's got to do. So, yeah, Blake Hahn's going to be a 2-time Lucas Oil ASCS National Tour champion, and he's going to go out just the way he wanted. He's going to be running some 410s next year. He's going to be running a lot more 410 races next year. He's going to be running with the World of Outlaws, the All-Stars, probably some Power Eye races. So look for him to venture around and do some 410 stuff next year.
So this is just a complete brand new show tonight. That qualifying they had last night, they'll have to do it again, right?
The way I understand it, yeah, I think so, Kirk.
So it should be a great night of race. You know, it's good to see Wayne Johnson get back to health after that bad crash at Waikini over the 4th of July weekend. That really put him in a bad way. He sat out for some time, you know, when the schedule permitted him to do so in late August or so forth. I talked to him at a Lakeside Speedway right after that. He said, that did me a world of good, he said. Sitting out the race car helped heal me up, he said. And so it's good to see him run well here at the end of the year after that bad situation he had to deal with for most of the summer.
Listen, if he didn't miss out at US 36, and remember, he didn't race up there at US 36.
That's right. He pulled out.
He'd probably be right in the middle of this points championship. He'd be right on top of Blake Hahn, probably, I would think. So, you know, he's 147 points, I think it is, out of the lead. That would have made up a lot of points that night. He wouldn't have given up a lot of points. So I think that Wayne Johnson probably regrets that happening up there at where was that wreck at, Kurt?
At Waikini, Kansas.
Waikini.
Yeah.
So
that was a terrible
anyway,
crash.
That probably set him back probably farther than he could make up, and it looks like that Wayne Johnson's going to end up running second points. Second points pays pretty good though. I don't know what it pays $50,000 to win the championship, and I think it pays like $25,000 to run second. So pretty good payday for running second with the Lucas Oil ASCS National Tour points.
Well, it's not as though Blake Hahn just trying to hang on here. I mean, the way he performed down at Devil's Bowl Speedway, I mean, that was pretty awesome to sweep the weekend down there. So he's coming into this last night of the season on a big high.
Well, yeah, I mean, you know, he'd never won a Lucas Oil ASCS National Tour race at Devil's Bowl Speedway, and he went back-to-back, won his first time ever with the Lucas Oil ASCS National Tour, and then picked up back-to-back wins down there. So it was good for him down at Devil's Bowl. Got that monkey off his back, kind of extended his point lead a little bit more, and it looks like he's on his way to the second ASCS National Championship.
And this is the last night behind the wheel for Tim Crawley?
That's what he says. Now, listen, I look for Tim Crawley to run some one-off deals next year. I don't think Tim Crawley's going to totally get out of the seat. I think that you'll see him do kind of like what Johnny Herrera does. You know, Johnny Herrera, he's a crew chief for the Morton boys, and every now and again, Johnny Herrera gets in a car and races. So I think what you're going to see is you're going to see Tim Crawley get in the car once in a while and try to race. I don't think that you'll see him completely give it up. I think you'll see him run from time to time.
Were you able to watch any other racing last night after you got rained out? They had the Coca-Cola Speedway night one of the Western World. Were you able to catch any of that last night?
I didn't, Kirk. I've got some friends, and if anybody knows anything about Tulsa, Oklahoma, I've got some really good friends that own a club called Lenny's Club.
Yes.
And I don't get to see them people very often. So as soon as it rained out, I went over to Lenny's, hung out at Lenny's there until about midnight. That's why I didn't get up early, Kirk.
Well, you told me when you left town yesterday, hey, Kirk, can you fill in? I said, yeah. I mean, you've been working 6 days a week here, so, yeah, it's all cool.
Kirk, I don't think people realize how much effort goes into doing these.
Yeah.
Being on the air 6 days a week. There's a lot of effort goes into that. And
I thought you just sat down in front of a microphone and just started doing it. Isn't that the way that works?
Sometimes it is. Sometimes that's how it works. Yeah. Sometimes I don't even know what I'm going to talk about until I start talking.
So what else is on your mind right now as we get started with hour two?
Well, I'm debating on what to do, to be honest with you, Kirk. I'm debating, do I sit it out and wait and see if we get rained out tonight, pay another day on them?
Did Scott freeze up? We'll get him reconnected here in just a little bit. I think his Zoom froze up on us. So
just a Zoom problem. We'll
try to reconnect. I see a still picture of Scott Traylor right now, so we'll try to get him dialed back in here in just a little bit. I'd hope that he would stay tonight. I think they're going to get it in. He says that it doesn't look very good.
That's what me and Austin were just talking about.
I think they'll get it in.
I think they'll get that in. I mean,
of course, that's what they said last night.
Yeah, like me and we were just saying, if I can't imagine, I don't know, if it was just a little bit warmer, they would have gotten that race in last night because that ground would have soaked up as much as water as it would have, But there he is. There we got him back.
We got you back, Scott.
Yeah. Sitting here in the Aloft, at the Aloft Hotel, Kirk.
You stayed there before? I've heard you talk about it. I'm not sure exactly where it's located down there, but I've heard you talk about it.
To be honest with you, Kirk, we were so spoiled over all the years of staying at Marriott properties that I just have a hard time staying anywhere but a Marriott property. And Aloft is one of the Marriott properties. It's just off of 71st Street. And it's a nice place, a little modern.
Down by the mall?
Huh?
Is it over by the mall, or is it?
It's near the mall.
Yeah. Okay. I know the neighborhood. We know the neighborhood well, don't we, Todd? Yeah. So anyway, I think you ought to stay. I think they're going to get this in tonight. I think so.
Well, you're not looking at the weather that I'm looking at, Kurt.
It's gotta get it in for Fuzzy. We've got to get this in for Fuzzy tonight. It's got to happen.
To be honest with you, Fuzzy wasn't a big fan of 2-day shows. I'm not so sure Fuzzy didn't make it rain last night.
She was looking down. Yeah, that's probably right.
Trying to save some money. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think we're going to get this in tonight. It's going to clear out and be good. The forecast doesn't indicate that it's supposed to rain tonight. So, but they were wrong last night.
Right. Well, let me just tell you, it looks, there's a point when a promoter's got to look at the weather and say, all right, are fans going to show up if it looks like it's going to rain?
Well, how warm is it down there?
It's not too bad temperature wise. It's probably about 65 degrees outside right now. But, if it looks like it's going to rain, a lot of people are not going to come and spend the money to go watch a race at a racetrack when they think it's going to rain, right? So they're going to have to make a tough decision here at some point today because it's overcast, cloudy, the sun's not out, rain clouds floating around. So they'll have to make a decision here sometime today.
Did it rain that much last night? It looked like just kind of a light sprinkled drizzle last night. Did it soak the racetrack after last night? How wet is the facility?
The racetrack got drenched last night, and to be honest with you, if they would have raced last night, it would have been hammered down. It would have been locked down real fast, not much passing. So I think they did the right thing by calling the races last night because it wasn't going to be much of anything race-wise. I think it was going to be a little bit too fast last night, and so we'll have to see if they can get it to dry out a little bit today and try to get tonight in.
Well, I'm looking at it says cloudy throughout the day, 20% chance of rain, mostly cloudy tonight. Yeah, it doesn't look like the sun's coming out today, which that's going to be a challenge to try to get things dried out. Well, let's pray that.
Well, here, let me look at it, Kirk. I'm looking at today, and right now, from 9 a.m. until 12 p.m., there's a 50 to 60% chance of rain.
Yeah.
And then from 1 p.m. on, there's a 20% chance of rain until about 11 p.m. tonight.
But I don't see any sun peeking out there. It says cloudy.
Yeah, it's one of those. It's one of those decisions, Kirk. We've been down this road before, right?
Yeah.
We know that people don't like to show up and buy tickets when it looks like it's going to rain, and I think they might be up against that tonight.
Well, let's hope the forecasters were as wrong today as they were yesterday, and maybe the sun will peek out when they don't predict it. So we'll see what happens. We'll keep an eye on that. But yeah, that'd be a bummer if not able to get that in tonight, for sure.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, I'd love to see it. In honor of Fuzzy, everybody wants to get this race in because Fuzzy was such a matriarch in the world of the ASCS. She was, to be honest with you, Fuzzy Hahn was the leader of the gang, really, to be honest with you. Nobody ran the show more than Fuzzy. Now, you can say that about Emmett, but her and Emmett were such a great team, such a great partnership that they might have been maybe the greatest husband-wife partnership in all of motorsports, to be honest with you, because Fuzzy made a lot of great decisions, and Emmett listened to Fuzzy quite a bit. She was really good at what she did, and we're gonna miss her. That's for sure. I know I do. I sure do miss her.
Yeah, we all do. There's no doubt about that. You
didn't interact with her as much as I did.
You did. You did lots more than me, but man, she was a great woman, no doubt about it. I enjoyed your stories that you and Scotty were telling about Canyon Speedway Park, which is going to be closing down out in the Phoenix area. That guy with that Mustang that crashed that car on the racetrack and then took it out on the highway and tried to claim he'd crashed it out on the road. That was pretty interesting story you told, but
that's just one of many stories, Kurt.
But Canyon Speedway Park, another track bites at us. We heard that this week.
Yeah, that's not good news to hear. Canyon is such the thing that I don't understand and what I can't get my head around is that racetrack is in the middle of nowhere. It's absolutely in the middle of nowhere. And what did he say? The nearest house to the racetrack is like 13 miles away.
Yeah. I mean, none of this makes any sense. That's on trust ground, he said, and the commissioner that is appointed by the governor. It's a state deal, decided not to renew the 7-year lease that was up for renewal. Right. And she's on her way out because they're getting a new governor in January.
Hopefully we keep our fingers crossed and maybe they could get something worked out and save the old racetrack. That would be nice, wouldn't it?
Yeah, but he's got to have everything off the property by January 20th, just at the time that a new governor would take over and possibly a new commissioner. Never gave a reason why that they were not renewing that lease. And it just doesn't make any sense, Scott, because they provide all of their own services. They don't draw any services from anywhere. They provide their own electricity. They get their own water. They're not drawing anything. And that ground that track sits on is in a floodplain. That's not going to be developed by anybody else, and it's miles from where anything else would be developed. The whole thing just doesn't make sense.
You know, it seems like to me, Kirk, that government, and we don't like to talk politics that much on our shows, but it seems like the government really just wants to get rid of a racetrack. That's what it sounds like to me.
Yeah, they're just finding this as an excuse just to get rid of it.
Yeah.
I mean, when it comes to noise issues and everything else, it's not going to bother anybody else where that track is located.
No doubt.
And what's sad about it, Scott, we lost another track in the Phoenix area a year ago, Arizona Speedway, just outside of Mesa. Yeah. Had its last race about a year ago, and Canyon was the last dirt track remaining in the Phoenix area.
Well, and I did get a little news yesterday, Kirk, and I'm trying to find out quickly. But, you know, Grandview was up for sale, right? Remember that?
Yep, in Pennsylvania.
Right. So, but now it looks like maybe there's a chance that track might be saved.
Wow. That's the first I've heard that. That's good news. Bechtelville, Pennsylvania.
Right.
Yeah, well, at least we get some good news. Do you want to play just a portion of that interview you had yesterday with Doug Gabbard, who is the owner of Canyon Speedway? We got that clip there, boys. Doug Gabbard is the owner of Canyon Speedway, and he was on Mostly Motorsports yesterday and talking about Canyon Speedway going under. Let's listen a little bit of that conversation from yesterday on Mostly Motorsports.
It was very sad news to hear that Canyon Speedway is going to be closing up, man. That had to be gut-wrenching to you, as much time as you've put into that place.
Yeah, I mean, I really don't think it's set in on me, you know, because I'm just so optimistic always, and you know, it's definitely been a hard pill to swallow.
Yeah. So tell us how this all started and why, because to me personally, I look at where that track is located, and I can't imagine that that property out there, it's probably worth some money, right? I'm not saying it isn't, but you would think because of its location that the racetrack would continue to thrive out there. Tell us what happened. How'd all this take place?
You know, I think that's what I'm struggling with, is because I can't get that answer from the Arizona State Trust Land Department. Is the trustee that, you know, operates that land and is responsible for the activities and you know, in accordance with that location. And so I operate under a lease agreement, and in my particular situation, I've been operating under 7-year leases, and I came in 2006 and negotiated a new lease in 2008, and then in 15 we negotiated a new 7-year lease, and then here we are again. And you know, it's not really even a lot of negotiation. It's they appraise the land, and then they give you a monthly payment or an annual payment, actually.
I got you.
And then you agree to the terms, and that's about it, you know. So in this particular scenario, we've had tremendous growth in land value and just overall in our community here in the greater Phoenix area, and it's just exploded. But, we're still distant from any homes, and we're probably 12 to 17 to 20 miles from homes, and we're probably still 12 to 15 miles from any industrial growth that's coming our way. So, it's just really hard for me to understand, especially, being in a floodplain, and I know you've been out there. It's just a rough environment, and there's no, government utilities. We provide our own water. We mine our own water. We mine our own electricity. Everything's independently operated. So it's just really hard. I think that's what I'm struggling with is I don't have a good enough reason that I can understand in my personal life or my personal head that it should be done, and that's where it hurts, the most.
Now, when you say that they bring a new payment plan and how much you have to pay, was the payment too high?
Not at all. I mean, we're happy with that's the opportunity that operating on trust land versus owning, I think that's why a lot of racetracks operate in, fairgrounds and county or government provided, land opportunities, because it's highly discounted. I mean, there's no problems with the financials. The government regulation, we're 100% in accordance, and we've never struggled with any of that, with licensing and stuff like that. We're good with all that, and even liability. We assume all liability for the state of Arizona against all claims. And I've been in this situation for 16 years, and I've never crossed a road that we couldn't get to the end on together with the state. So, the commissioner of Arizona Trust Land is an appointed position, and this particular commissioner came in after my last agreement in 2015, and they really don't contact you unless there's a problem. So I've never communicated with her or her office until this last year, and then it's been difficult to find the right person to communicate with because there's been a transition in employees, and it seems like throughout the last 16 years there's constant turnover within the Trust Land Department's offices. But you operate under a written agreement, and they don't contact you unless there's a problem or you're delinquent, or we handle everything. So
right.
I really just can't understand why they would want it to just sit there.
Right. And is there anything that the listeners that are listening right now, because we've got a lot of people that listen out in Arizona and a lot of people around the country that listen to the show, is there anything that we could do? Is this lady's name Lisa Atkins?
Yeah, Lisa Atkins is the State Trust Land Commissioner, and her decisions are final. I mean, there's really she's appointed by the governor, and it's also kind of weird for me. I don't mean to cut you off, but I'm struggling because she's been real short with me and direct and just adamant that they don't want to relook at an application for renewal. And in that process, nothing changes. It's the same application, for the fourth time, you know what I mean?
Right.
But the governor's office is we're voting today, and there's going to be a new governor. And, the governor that we had previously served his term. So, we're getting a new governor, and that office is could be reassigned or a new commissioner could be appointed.
Right.
So that could happen as soon as January. So, I just don't understand what the reason is, and I just don't know how to get there right now. I mean, that's the next step, I guess, is to still try to understand,
That's Doug Gabbard, the owner of Canyon Speedway Park, on Scott Traylor's Mostly Motorsports show yesterday, talking about the closure of Canyon Speedway Park. Not good news.
No. Hey, here, I did get this from Caleb. He messaged me yesterday and said, at tonight's Washington Township meeting, it was announced that Copart has withdrawn their application for the Grandview property owned by the Rogers family. According to a post on the Grandview Speedway Facebook page, racing will resume in 2023.
Now that's great news.
That's awesome news right
wow. That's awesome. We needed some good news on the track front, and we sure got it right there.
Right, that's great news.
Yeah. So I would you don't know why Copart withdrew their offer or whatever, but hey, doesn't matter.
Hey, doesn't matter as
They're
long as the
racing
racetrack survives.
That's right.
That's all that matters, right?
Yeah, that's awesome news to hear. At Grandview Speedway, and I'm sure another driver that'd be happy to hear that is Rico Abreu, who always did well at Grandview
Right.
Speedway. So I'm sure he's celebrating that news too.
A lot of good runs for Rico at that racetrack. Yeah. So I just spoke with Tommy Hahn during that interview, Kirk, and he says the racetrack looks really good. He's out there right now. He says there's a little water down at the bottom of 1 and 2 from the rain last night, but he thinks they're going to get it in. But all I can tell you is that there's rain splashing on my glass in my motel room right now.
Well, how far away are you from the racetrack? Where you're at now?
I'm probably good 12 miles away. Yeah.
Well, it's supposed to, according to this weather, hour by hour, that after 1 o'clock this afternoon, that most of it's supposed to clear out. Let's hope so. Golly, we need to get a race in down here.
Well, we need to, for sure. Definitely. But, Blake Hahn's not going to be too sad if it rains out because he guarantees the championship, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. With that kind of a lead he's got, it'd have to be really catastrophic. I'm not here in a position to do the math on that, but that looks insurmountable to me with one night to go. What do I know?
Yeah. Oh, there's no doubt. With one night to go, the championship's locked up for sure.
Hey, what do you think of Lance Dewease? Austin and I talked about this a little bit earlier in the first hour. Lance Dewease winning at Williams Grove last Saturday night, his 5th National Open. And I thought Steve Post brought up a pretty good point about the Hall of Famers on that team with Don Kreitz Jr. and Davey Brown, who's 88 years old, by the way.
Right.
Don Kreitz, over 60 years old. And Lance himself, what is he, 57 years old?
57. Yeah. Yeah, he's 57 years old. The Geritol boys, that's what we call those guys.
Getting it done.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's amazing to see. It's kind of funny. I've talked about it many times before on Mostly Motorsports, that we see a lot of the older drivers in the late model series. The World of Outlaw late models, the Lucas Oil late model series, the XR series. You see a lot of older guys winning in the late models, but you see mostly young guys winning in sprint cars. But Lance Dewease, he's still getting it done at 57 years old. He's got 2 older guys there. His car owners in his 60s, his crew chiefs in his 80s, and they're still getting it done. So can't say the old dudes aren't getting it done in sprint car racing as well.
He he was very fortunate that that accident occurred between Gio Scelzi and Stutz and Zierfoss down there, because had that not occurred and they'd completed another lap, it would have been Brent Marks the winner, don't you think?
Yeah, I think Brent Marks, when he made that move on that restart to get around Lance Dewease, I think if he holds that lead and that yellow doesn't come out, I think Brent Marks is the winner of that race for sure.
Because there's no way that and Lance admitted that there was no way he was going to get back by Brent Marks.
Right. Yeah, he said that in the interview, right?
He did.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I think Brent Marks. It's so critical when you get out in clean air at Williams Grove. The air means everything. Would you agree with me, Austin, on that the air is everything when you get on a big track like Williams Grove?
Yeah, air is, especially on a track, so when it's cold out, that's even bigger. You're on a big half mile that's fast in there like Williams Grove. Yeah, that's and Ford. It's not a problem. It's still a problem in 360s, but the wing speed that the 410s generate, 5-6 car lengths behind, car is all dirty air, and you get to that little bubble of air, and now you're forced to search for cleaner air, and when you're on a track that narrow, it's hard to do that, and it just makes it really difficult for guys in traffic to make any ground. But like if you're in a 360, you're that's 2 or 3 car lengths, and it's a little more manageable. But yeah, and in that case, at Williams Grove Saturday night, it was so important to get the clean air, and that's why we really only saw 1 leader, and guys back second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth, they were all fast enough to maybe lead, but they're all stuck in dirty air, and you can't. The track's not wide enough to run the bottom, and the top's so fast to that point, or the middle is, and you're just stuck going nowhere, and you're forced to ride around until something happens.
Austin, when you get into a corner and you're ripping the lip, and you get up behind somebody, how close do you have to be before it starts messing up the air on your car? When, say, if you're on a 3/8 mile track and you're right up on somebody's bumper, how close do you get to them before it starts messing up the air on your car?
For 360s, I can run. I think of a 3/8 like Lucas Oil or Lake Ozark or any track like that. It's in this area. You can run right behind somebody and are right up on them, and you might have a little bit of dirty air, just a touch, but you're generally not going that fast to have a big problem, or that I've felt. Now you go to like a place like I-70 or Knoxville, Williams Grove. You're within 4, 5, 6 car lengths of somebody. Actually, take that back. Maybe for 3, 4, and 5, maybe for 360s that you really feel the air. I was when we went to I-70 this year. I started on the pull of the heat race. And Blake was next to me, and Blake got a jump on me and chopped me into 3, and he was within maybe 2 car lengths, 2.5 in front of me, and the air was so strong, the dirty air was so strong, it picked up the front of the car, and moved it to the right about a foot and a half, and it killed my run, and maybe so tight I had to get out of the throttle and lost a spot. So it's huge, and when you're in it and you're not prepared for it, it will wreck you and turn your run upside down pretty much. And you hear guys in 410 racing, you have so much more power, so much more wing speed, that it's even worse. So it's definitely it's something that you need to have a lot of experience in, at least, and something that's hard to practice. Being good at.
Have you ever had dirty air wreck you, Austin?
No. Other people have. That's not uncommon. Me personally, I've never had that issue yet.
Right.
Boy, we got some real drama going into the World Finals next weekend. 16 points separate Brad Sweet and David Gravel after Sweet's mechanical issues. Had that rear axle break. No time to fix that. Talk about a DNF. He hadn't had any until the worst time of the year for Brad Sweet. Now it's game on.
16 points, I believe. Isn't
Yep. Yeah, I mean, that's almost tied when you
Right.
consider the, what's left down there at Charlotte.
Austin, let me ask you this. If you're Brad Sweet and you're 16 points ahead of David Gravel going into the final weekend of the year, what do you do? Do you try to stay close to Gravel? Do you try to outrun him? What kind of game face do you put on when you get down there and try to run the World Finals this weekend?
You go out there and do your job in qualifying, put yourself up in the front of a heat race, get yourself locked into the dash, and then when you get to the feature, stay up front. And at that point, if you're close enough to the front in the top 5, and it's going to force Gravel to win every night to run him down. I believe it's 2 points a spot. So it'll be very hard for David to go up there and chip in at that points lead. But yeah, you just got to go out there and do your job. Early in the night, put yourself in a good position, and race up front. And if you're not having a good night and you're in the back of the pack, try and get yourself closer to the front as you can without turning your equipment up. And if you're by David, you can stay around him or take a chance and try and get some more points on him. But don't jeopardize your night or your points points title for one spot. It wouldn't be worth it.
Yeah.
I think Sweet's. Go ahead, Scott.
I got to believe that David Gravel's going to be up on the wheel, and he's going to try to win every race that he can get in this weekend. And I think Brad Sweet, in my eyes, Brad Sweet needs to just stay close to David Gravel, not give up very many points, make sure that he's within a car length of him or so. Just stay with him, and he's gonna have to point race. In my eyes, I think that's what he's gonna have to do. He's gonna have to point race this weekend.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. He can't have any more bad nights. He can't afford any more bad nights.
No, he can't.
So at Kokopah Speedway this weekend, Scott, the Western World Championships are going on, sprint car action. Watched that last night. I thought the racetrack was pretty racy last night. Not a good night for Brady Bacon, who's had a history of doing well at the Western World, but he had a flat tire last night. He was running third, but I don't think anybody had anything for Emerson Axsom last night, and that was his first win in 8 months. He'd won down at Bubba Raceway Park back in February, but he picked off a pretty solid victory last night out at Kokopah Speedway.
How many midget wins does he have this year, Austin? Do you know that off the top of your head by chance?
None. He has 3 sprint car wins.
3 sprint car wins, but he's won a few midget races, though, hadn't he?
I don't think this year. In the past, he has.
But the first win since February, though, in a sprint car. So all of a sudden they found it. Jake Swanson looked like he might have had something for him there, but not to be, as Swanson ends up in second place after starting 5th. Matt Westfall, who swept the weekend at Gas City last weekend, finished 3rd. Robert Ballou had a pretty good run. He was probably the biggest mover of the race, started 13th, ended up 4th. And Justin Grant rounds out the top 5 out at Kokopah after that 30-lap feature event. And we see Justin Grant, he's got a 93-point lead over Brady Bacon for the AMSOIL Sprint Car National Championship. And they got one more weekend, the Oval Nationals next weekend out at Paris, California.
I haven't read much on Racing Boys today, but I'm looking at the Axsom press release right now. How many cars did they have out there, Kirk? Do you know?
I'm trying to see how many they did end up with last night. 40 cars, it appears. 40 cars.
Kirk?
Yes. They had 40 race cars last.
Maybe
I'm not
I should
sure.
turn you. maybe I should turn you back up. How many cars did they have out there?
40.
40.
Yep.
Okay. That's a good amount of cars.
Yeah.
I would think.
I like that racetrack out there. Scott, you've spent many times out there, Kokopall Speedway. That's a pretty racy track.
Oh, boy. I've got some stories from Kokopall, let me tell you. Me and old Scotty Cook stayed out there many a nights. Had a lot of time. You remember the one year, Kirk, we went out there and did the IMCA modified races out there that one year?
Yeah. Yeah, it's
Remember
I'm
I
not
was
sure
out
if that
there?
was the trip I was out there with you. I was there in the fall one year with you out there.
You came to Kokopall once?
I did. Went out there to help you do a broadcast. It was the final event of the season for the Lucas Oil ASCS. They had the banquet out there and at the casino, and we hung out there and had a good time.
We did the banquet live
Yeah.
too, didn't we?
I flew
I
in
forgot
to Phoenix and rented a car and drove from Phoenix to Yuma to be with you guys down there.
And you made it without hitting anything.
I made it without hitting anything. So I had a good time out there. I love that area out there. With that casino and all that.
They've got another race that I'd like to go to out there. I think that I can get a sponsor to buy a motel room for me out there. So there's a chance that I might make it back out there to Kokopall before the year's up.
That'd be cool.
But you know what I'd really like to go to, Kirk? I'd really like to go to the World Finals next week.
That's going to be a fun weekend. Got the sprint cars, late models, and big block modifieds all in one weekend. It's going to be a big crowd down there next weekend at the dirt track in Charlotte.
I bet you money the motel rooms are off the chart.
Yeah, they're probably not cheap. They're not cheap anywhere right now.
Well, for a Marriott property, I got this room for about $100 last night.
Yeah, it's not bad.
That's not bad for a Marriott property. No.
Better than the we got spoiled with $30-some, those rates. Those days are over.
Oh yeah, long gone.
Yeah.
Those days. Hey, Kirk. Who's Iowa State play today?
Oklahoma, the Sooners.
But you picked a good time to play them because Oklahoma's not doing very good right now.
Yeah, well, neither Iowa State. They've lost 4 in a row now. They need to win today at 11 o'clock. Your Sooner friends down there are not going to want to hear that from me, but that's where we're at right now. Lost 4 in a row. Need to win a game.
How many has Oklahoma lost this year?
They've not done as well as they're used to doing down there. I'm not sure exactly what their record is right now. I got a new coach down there, and they've lost some games. That losing to Texas the way they did, that didn't set well for your Sooner friends down there. But they got back in the winning column the last game though.
Hey, Kirk, last time I checked, they're your friends too.
They're my friends. Probably not today though. I'm not sure we're friends today, but outside of that, we are. So we love you all down there. Hey, do you want to hear this interview from Steve Post? We've got a little bit of a segment from the Postman from earlier this week. He's a regular guest on Mostly Motorsports every Wednesday with Scott Traylor. And let's listen to a portion of the conversation that Scott had with Steve Post from a few days ago.
What'd you think about Lance picking up his 5th National Open at Williams Grove last week?
It boggles my mind because, Scott, here's the thing. I mean, and with the exception of that one restart where Brent Marks got the best of him and it got called back with a red flag, that was an ass whooping.
It really was.
From the first lap of practice to qualifying, they got the right draw with the dash, and that's fine. I mean, but here's the thing that just boggles my mind about this. And when we look at wing sprint car racing this year, we have raved about, what Brent Marks has done. How him and his crew guys have gone, and they went out to Eldora and won both of the King's Royals. They picked up a win at Knoxville and what they've done. And these are all young, a trio of young guys out there doing it. When you look at Lance Deweese, you've got Lance, who's 57.
Right.
You've got Donnie Kreitz, the team owner, is somewhere in the mid-60s. And you got Davey Brown, his lead mechanic, who is 83 or 84 years old. Scott, they're all enshrined in the National Sprint Car Hall of Fame. They're in Knoxville. And not just enshrined this year, it's been years. And these Hall of Famers just absolutely took it to the best the World of Outlaws had to offer and the best the Pennsylvania Posse had to offer. And, oh, by the way, that's their third World of Outlaw win this year at Williams Grove. So they have got that car dialed in so well. And there just comes a point where we're going to 20 years. I was talking about this on Wing Nation. 20 years, whatever the kid's name is. Maybe the kid's name is Owen Larson. And we don't know what. Maybe the kid's name is Brent Cruz.
Right.
We don't know what that kid's name is. Bunch of us old folks are going to sit around and we're going to say, yeah, that kid is good, but what's he going to be like when he's in his late 50s and early 60s? Because what Lance Deweese and Donald Kreitz and Davey Brown did was pretty special. We are witnessing something that I just don't know that we would ever see again. We've never seen it previously, guys that are all Hall of Famers just absolutely taking it to the World of Outlaws like they have this year and like they did on the big stage, $75,000 to win. I know it's not Knoxville and I know it's not Eldora, but it's in that category, and they absolutely brought it. Lance Deweese and that group, man, I'll tell you what, it's so impressive what that team does. And, I don't, everyone's like, well, they just hone in on one track. So what?
Yeah.
If you're going to hone in on one track, now Williams Grove is a pretty good track to hone in on.
No doubt.
And if you're 57, 65, and 84 years old, I don't know necessarily you're setting up to run a full World of Outlaw tour anyhow. But I'm telling you, when they come to their home ground, you're sitting back saying, "Man, we got it handed to us on Saturday night," and they did by a bunch of the Hall of Famers, and all of them are qualified for AARP as well.
Yeah, no doubt. And do you feel, because Lance said this when Brent got around him right there that one time and the yellow come out, he was afraid that he wasn't going to be able to get back past Marks. Do you feel like if that yellow doesn't come out, that Brent Marks ends up winning the Open?
Yeah, I think so. Lance had a bad restart, and Lance also had a part of his wing. One of the wing brackets was broken on the car, so the car wasn't handling the way he wanted it to. And I firmly believe, because here's the other thing. Okay, I just went off 3 or 4 minutes about Lance Deweese. Okay, Lance told us yesterday on Wing Nation that he believes the fastest and best sprint car driver in the country is Brent Marks. So there wasn't a big margin between these two. It was a race to the front, and Lance had the front, and he gave it up. I think Brent Marks gets the lead, and I think it's over as well in the other direction. And I think that's how good both of those cars were. I don't think Lance gets around Brent, because you can at Williams Grove, as tricky as that place is, you can manipulate the air, manipulate the lines. You can make it really difficult on the guy behind you at the place. And Brent Marks and Lance Deweese are both capable enough drivers to do that.
Yeah.
Steve Post on Mostly Motorsports. You can listen to him every Wednesday as host of Wing Nation, and also he does pit reporting. He'll be on the air this weekend for the Motor Racing Network at Martinsville this weekend. So pretty well-rounded guy and all of racing, right, Steve? Steve Post.
Steve's a good man. He's the wealth of knowledge that guy has in his head, man. He's got a big head and he's got a lot of brains in there, and he remembers a lot of great things. He's been a huge asset to the show that we do each and every Wednesday. And again, his appearance is brought to you by Sage Fruit. We want to thank those guys for allowing Steve to come over there and be a part of our broadcast each and every Wednesday. So it's an honor to have him on there. The host of Wing Nation, the lead pit reporter for MRN. He's so well rounded when it comes. He's a diehard. He goes to Melbridge every Tuesday night and does some announcing down there as well. So he's about as hardcore as they come, isn't he?
He is. I mean, big head. He's not egotistical or anything like that. He's just a wealth of knowledge. That's
no,
what
I didn't mean.
Yeah.
No, I just meant he had a big head.
He's a great guy. We love Steve.
And,
we love
and
the
a lot of
postman.
hair. He's got a lot of hair.
He's got a lot of hair.
Oh my God.
So what else is going on?
If I grew my hair out like that, I'd have a skullet.
I couldn't do it. First of all, I'm not capable of doing it.
Well, no, you've got spikes, Kirk.
Yeah, but haven't you noticed I got a haircut since I've seen you last?
No, I can't tell.
Yeah.
I'm not sitting right there in front of you.
I got a haircut yesterday afternoon.
You got it all trimmed up.
All nice trimmed up. Now, Todd, he's got, you did get a haircut here a while back.
I cut a bunch off.
You still got the long hair, though.
Yeah, I cut my permanent off. It was getting a little fuzzy, so I had to get rid of that curls. I feel a little rough with those curls in my head.
He was a bear. Fuzzy Wuzzy had no hair.
Hey, Scott, they had, we were talking about this a little bit earlier. Lakeside Speedway had United States Modified Touring Series out there last night. Terry Phillips looked like he was going to run away with it, but he got into a lap car, and his car changed. He admitted that after the race. It really tightened up, but he had to pass Derek Ramirez early in the race. He started like the, I don't know, third, fourth row, somewhere, and not up front. But Ramirez started up front. He led early, 40-lap race. And Phillips was set on kill the early part of that race. And once he got out in front, it looked like he was going to run away and hide until he got into that lap car. They're coming down for the white flag, and Derek Ramirez passes Terry Phillips on the outside and then wins the race. So pretty exciting finish out at Lakeside last night.
Well, that just backs up that good run that he had down at Bacola. You know, he was down there at and he runs second down there.
To Dan Ebert. Dan Ebert, the winner down there,
Yeah, he ran second to him. So looks like Terry Phillips has got it going on right now with his car.
Yeah, I see. I mean, I thought for sure once he got out in front, there was just nobody going to be able to catch him. But as he said, the car changed a lot after he got into that lap car up there last night. But it was pretty good show out there. I think they had about 28 cars out there last night.
What lap did he get into the lap car, Kirk?
I think it was probably about a little less than 10 laps to go.
Wow.
Yeah.
How many cars did they have out there last night?
28 A-mods out there. They had, I don't think, quite 25 B-mods, and they ran a stock car class out there last night as well.
Did your nephew run?
He did not. He did not come down here.
Why didn't he come down and run?
He was probably watching the high school football team in the playoffs last night. That's my guess.
Oh,
so,
high school.
He was down here. He was down there last Saturday night, though. They only had 6 A-mods last Saturday night, and 3 finished, and he was third of the 3. So, Kerry Davis was out there, but Tim Carrick was not at Lakeside Speedway last night, but Kerry Davis was.
It's time to let the A-mods go at Lakeside.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta. I don't know. It's
you can't survive with 6 cars,
and
the fans don't want to sit up there in the grandstand.
And that's the low end of the count that they've had this year, but they've ranged anywhere from 15. I don't think they've ever had 20 cars out there this year. I don't think they've had that many this year, but they've had as many as 15, 16, maybe 17 cars. I don't know the total car count this year, but they've had as few as 6. So it's been a hit and miss or proposition for the A-mods at Lakeside Speedway. But you know what, Scott? It's been that way at every racetrack. The car counts with the A-mod division. So that's where you're at.
Well, as we know, B-mods killed the A-mods.
Yeah. That's true. I mean, a lot of those guys, we've seen a lot of these guys that we used to seeing in the A-Mod class step down into the B-Mod class, like Terry Schultz Terry Schultz would be an example of that.
Well, and then some of the guys that you saw running the B-Mod step down to the E-Mods.
Yeah. So I don't know where it's headed, but I'm sure Darren Bennett and all the folks out there at Lakeside Speedway will evaluate things and see where we're going to go from here. My guess is the A-Mods will be back next year, but I don't know.
I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that the A-Mods might not be back next year.
I could be. I just don't have any insight of that, where they're going to go with that. But if you just look at the car counts alone, you got to evaluate where you're at.
Well, listen, you can take those dollars and put them in your pocket, right?
Yeah.
The money that you're paying out for the A-Mods, I don't know what the margins are at Lakeside Speedway and how much money they're making, but if you scratch the A-Mods, that's just money that you don't have to pay out, right?
Right. That's
more
true.
Money back in your pocket, right?
I noticed Electric City Speedway, that's the track down there in Butler, ran a race last night. They had USRA mods down there last night, 11 cars. And I'm
B-Mods?
A-Mods. 11 A-Mods at Butler last night. Dylan McCowan was the winner. He's battling with Tyler Davis for the USRA Overall Championship. Davis was there but didn't start the A-Main, so I'm not exactly sure what was going on with him. Andy Bryant was there, so it was Dylan McCowan, your winner, Chase Jones, Matt Johnson. 3 cars finished of the 11.
Oh, boy.
3 of those 11 didn't start, and only 3 of the 8 that did start the A-Main finished the feature at Butler last night. So there you go.
Well, let me tell you, I'll tell you this. Every time I drive by Butler Speedway, I can see some capital improvements to that place. Every time I go by there, there's somebody doing some work there. And only thing I wish they would have done is named it something different. Because there's already an Electric City Speedway up in Great Falls,
with you on
Montana.
that. Yeah. What was the matter with just Butler Speedway? I guess there's already one of those, too, up in Michigan, right?
I kind of liked Old 71 Speedway.
Yeah, that didn't they have that name for a while?
They did.
That would have been fine. But I'm with you on that. There's already an Electric City Speedway.
Yeah, it's in Great Falls, Montana,
Right.
and we've been there. We've done live pay-per-view races at that place, and it's a nice place up there, right on the Missouri River in Great Falls, Montana.
Terry Schultz won the B-Mod feature at Butler last night. They had 14 of those cars in the B-Mod class. So, yeah, I don't know. Of course, this time of the year, you're not going to get that many cars at a lot of places. So,
let me tell you, what they've done down there at Butler, they've done a good job on cleaning that place up and getting it to look nicer. It looks a lot nicer from the road nowadays.
It does. They're going to have one more night up at I-35 Speedway tonight. So that's about it. Then, of course, USMTS wraps it all up at 81 Speedway tonight.
Right.
So there you go. We're getting right down to the end of the year, Scott. Not many races left.
Yep. It doesn't look any better here, Kirk. Just so you know, it's raining.
So would you imagine that decision would be made, around noontime, or what do you think?
No,
what do you think they're going to do?
I don't think they're going to make any decision anytime soon.
Just
I think
let it
they're gonna
ride.
Wait and make the decision later in the day.
Yeah, that's the smart way to go. Just, you got nothing to lose. Just everybody's already there, right? I mean, it's not like, you're seeing a lot of guys travel from long distances in today. Everybody's already there. So
they
you
got
might
a
as well
good following. they got a good following at Creek County.
Yeah,
a lot of people
they
like
do.
to go to that racetrack.
That's a great racetrack. Well, let's hope keep our fingers crossed that this rain clears out of there and we can get that show in tonight.
Yeah.
Well, I've got you pointed this
got
out.
A game to watch.
I've got a game to watch, so I'm gonna let you go. We're gonna wrap this thing up.
All
so,
right, bud.
well, safe
All right,
travels
thanks
out there, Scott.
Thanks for filling in today, Kurt.
Hey, it's a pleasure. We'll look forward to talk to you on Monday. Hope we got a big race to talk about.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we'll talk about the Fuzzy Fall Fling tonight.
There we go. Scott Traylor joining us from Tulsa. Thank you for joining us. Guys, you got anything else you want to talk about? World Series tonight, too. We're gonna
Game number
watch
2.
that. Yeah.
It's going to be a nice day out there today. They're calling for humidity out here in Kansas City. I cannot believe that they have a humidity warning, but going to be a couple warm days coming up in November here.
So we don't have to have a coat on today?
It's right now it's just perfect out there. So if you got stuff to do today, this is the day to do it, my friend.
So what do you got planned today?
I actually am going to go home and do boring yard work. I put it off this week because I saw what the forecast was going to be for later on this week. So I said, you know what? I think I'll wait until Saturday or Sunday. Chiefs don't play tomorrow, have a bye week. So this is the week that I think they put those bye weeks in, Scott, and Kirk. I think they put those things in there just for us people to get our work done during football season, because if not, I just probably sit on the couch from noon until, I don't know, 10 o'clock at night when the last game comes on. I've got the NFL package, so I'm sitting there with 8 TV games on at one time, zip, listening, picking up scores, watching it that way. So if they didn't put in a bye for your home team, then for the football fans, they may not get any work done around the house all football season. So I'm like you, Kirk. Football's high priority, but this weekend, not today. So I'll be doing a few other things.
So get your work done. How about you, Austin? What do you got going on this weekend? Anything?
F1 race tomorrow at 3 o'clock. I'll be in the race shop all day today and probably all day tomorrow.
At Mexico. So it's
Mexico
in our time
City.
zone.
Yes, it's actually, yes, it's in our time zone, yep.
Cool.
So COTA started last week at 2 o'clock. This will be 3 o'clock and should be done by 4:30, 4:45. Thank God F1 races aren't like NASCAR where you're sitting there for 3 or 4 hours. It's done in an hour and a half, and you can carry on with your day.
I love that. I love that part about it. Hour and a half. You know what was so cool? You're watching that Rolex clock hit 2 o'clock. I said, that's the time it is here. How about that?
Yeah, that's we'll get to say that 2 more times next year, and maybe 4 if we're counting Mexico. Yeah. But yeah, it's nice to have something of that caliber on our home soil, and we're fortunate enough to have a series like F1 want to be a part of what we offer.
That's it. Thanks, guys, for helping us out here today.
Thank you.
Todd Surprise, Austin O'Neill, for Scott Traylor. I'm Kirk Elliott. Have a great rest of the weekend, everybody. We'll talk to you again next week, and Scott will be here Monday for Mostly Motorsports.
Track Talk.
There is less than 1/100th of an inch of motor oil protecting your car's engine. Friction and heat causes engine oil to experience thermal breakdown, weakening its ability to protect the engine and its parts. Lucas Heavy Duty Oil Stabilizer is specially formulated to resist thermal breakdown, protect vital engine parts, and extend the life of your engine. It also stops smoking, knocking, and oil consumption in worn engines. Lucas Heavy Duty Oil Stabilizer. Keep that engine alive.